Oh, Sargon of Akkad! Oh, Sargon of Akkad! Oh, Sargon of Akkad! One more step! Get up there!
Scared of heights, I don't want to do that. It's nice to be able to be. It's nice being taller than everyone else for a few minutes. I might just take this if that's all right.
Climbing, mate.
No. Right, so I haven't really got a speech, but I do have a bunch of things that happened this week that I'd like to talk about. If that's okay with you guys?
This week is stupid!
It's stupid.
Absolutely.
This week is stupid.
Right.
Now, before you start, tell us, are you gay or straight?
No,
Do I get oppression points if I'm gay?
Yes! Pansexual!
I'm going to get away with a lot of stuff then. Right. So the first one is from the Sunday Times. Parsons Green tube bomber told to study Quran during life sentence.
Because that'll help!
It gets better, right? So he's got 34 years in prison, and the judge told him to learn the true meaning of the Quran as a book of peace. Mr. Justice Haddon Cave said that Hassan, who was born in Iraq, claimed asylum in Britain, cynically exploited the full generosity and naivety of the system after harbouring dark thoughts, right? So, I just can't go over this, right? He literally said, you will have plenty of time to study the Quran in prison for years to come. You should understand that the Quran is a book of peace. Islam is a religion of peace.
He's trolling.
Did the judge know that he probably couldn't read?
Judge is the ultimate
No,
troll.
he's an intelligent guy, but the thing is, when did our judges become Islamic scholars? How does he know? Has he read the Quran? What does he know about
Around
Islam?
2005, apparently.
Is his name Muhammad?
The reason is, it gets better. The Quran and Islam forbid anything extreme, including extremism in religion. Which maybe was going to tell ISIS this. Maybe, just maybe, he doesn't know what he's fucking talking about.
Strap a rifle to him and make him charge.
Did the judge commit a hate crime by telling a Muslim how to interpret the Quran?
Well,
Was he a white
speaks to a
man?
larger point, though,
judge
doesn't it? I mean, how is it in any way his business? But you've got Lord Pearson in Parliament saying, look, we're going to start encouraging Muslim groups to issue fatwas against grooming gangs. It's like, okay, so we're going to have to actually start implementing Sharia for Muslim communities. So it's going to have to be a double-speed legal system, because otherwise, what choice do we have?
Start using a bulldozer to open a fucking door.
Exactly. It
doesn't work.
It's unbelievable that this is something that we have to do, but this is where we find ourselves. You know, personally, I would like to see the outlawing of Sharia courts entirely. I think English common law is a universal system that should apply to everyone in the country without prejudice, without discrimination, without choice.
For everybody.
Secularism.
Absolutely.
Nicked out.
Just to really nail home the judge's thoughts on Sharia law, which are obviously extensive, The Independent reported this week that Saudi women should be able to choose whether to cover their head in a black abaya or just a regular head covering.
Much progressive, much progressive.
So forward thinking that.
So
It's like,
great.
how would you like to be covered up, ladies? You know, would you like an entire body cover or just something that covers everything but a little bit of your face?
They get really weird tan lines.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this isn't even something that's happened. This is something that should happen. This is just, I mean, at least it's the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia saying, you know, I might want something a little more progressive, but don't go too far.
One step at a time.
Yeah, you know, calm down. But, yeah, the laws are very clear and stipulated in the laws of Sharia that women wear decent, respectful clothing like men. Well, again, that's a bit subjective. It's like our hate speech laws. That could be anything that you interpret it to be. And
mini skirts are great.
well, yeah, don't show any skin, you bloody
Wearing too
harlot.
much is offensive.
Honestly, what? That's not modest, is it? How can I be expected to continue?
H&M do some brilliant things.
Can I just say, cardigans are a timeless classic?
What happened to nudity? That was the good days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's get
Them clothes.
To be fair, if you're living in the desert, you probably don't want to be nude, especially with your complexion. It's for your own good, mate. Get that viral. You know. Naturally, Which side do you think Jeremy Corbyn was on this argument?
The wrong one!
Well, it's interesting you say that, because that's where we're going. So the Times reported this week that Jeremy Corbyn's drive for tolerance has, unsurprisingly, given a platform to extremists. Calm down, I know you're shocked. Jeremy Corbyn with extremists, enemies of Britain, Islamists, terrorists, no! Fucking perish the thought. Yeah, right.
He's banned from Golders Green.
He's banned from where?
Golders Green.
Oh, good.
That's one place down.
So,
ban him from Islington
this
as well.
was a campaign against Islamophobia that was launched in Parliament by Jeremy Corbyn that gave a platform to supporters of jihad. That's really fucking tolerant, Jeremy. Good job. So, the Islamophobia Awareness Month was celebrated in council buildings, universities and schools and featured extremist speakers. For example, a man called, they don't actually list his name, but a defender of Jihadi John, the famous English accented jihadi who was in the video cutting off a man's head in Syria.
He's just a poor soul.
Well, he didn't do nothing because he was apparently a beautiful young man. Didn't do fucking
Isn't
nothing.
homosexuality banned in the Quran?
How can you
Of course it is.
How can you tell he's
I'm
beautiful?
killed for being gay, so how the fuck does that work?
Look, he might be beautiful and gay.
So do they both get thrown off a roof then?
Police.
Get arrested for that.
Why are they going to accuse me of racism?
Wait, yeah,
Grossly offensive.
you're a racist. He's too
The
brown
memes
for
are
you.
too spicy. The memes are too spicy.
We've got, honestly. So,
Reparations to yourself.
actually, yes. So obviously this was done by a group called Muslim Engagement and Development, a lobbying organisation.
Muslim engagement? That's oxymoron.
I can't say anything about it. You're black. I can't.
Sounds like a militia.
I'm too pale. I can't say that. But a lobbying organisation whose senior figures included a campaign who supported killing British soldiers and whose activists have made statements regarded as anti-Jewish. Oh! Imagine my fucking shock.
Make up your own world.
Well, it's because they were purged. That was in the Quran. Maybe Matey Boy will learn about that in prison. He'll come out as a real pro-Israel guy, won't he? So, the campaign gave mainstream respectability to individuals with high-profile extremist histories, according to the Henry Jackson Society. The hate preacher Shakil Beg starred at an event for IAM.
He was at Bristol.
At Deptford Lounge, a community centre owned by the London Borough of Lewisham. The evening was arranged by Stand Up to Racism campaign. Mr. Beg was found by a judge to be an extremist for saying that violence in support of Islam would constitute a man's greatest deed for endorsing a fatwa, and that it is a religious duty for Muslims to be hostile to or hate non-Islamic states. This is being sanctioned by the people at the top. They are the ones organising it in your universities, in your councils and in your schools. This is the problem that we have to deal with, and by the way, you're all racists.
That's why I didn't attend.
I drive a race car. I'm a racist.
Great. So, yeah, honestly, I'm not going to continue reading this article. It's actually pissing me off.
Did you find it grossly offensive?
I did.
Report it to police immediately.
So, weirdly, it's amazing how much you see this time and time again. So, the Women's March in the United States, I'm sure you've all heard of it, massive march, led by Linda. Nobody cared who I was until I put on a hijab and asked for women's vaginas to be taken away, so I saw.
So progressive.
And you're going to be surprised to learn that a bunch of their top staffers are leaving the organisation because of anti-Semitism.
Well,
Yeah,
Imagine my shock.
thank you.
He needs to make up his own one.
What's wrong with Jews? I love apple juice, tomato juice. All kind of juice.
Oh my god. So yeah.
The real juice of life.
So apparently their speaker, Tamika Mallory, attended a rabidly anti-Semitic speech by the Nation of Islam leader who railed against the Jewish community with conspiratorial claims that they ran the government.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
What's the conspiracy?
You're Jewish, you're part of it. Yeah, that's right, you keep quiet now, don't you?
Where's my shill money?
This is actually great, right? So he accused the Jewish community and governments of the United States and Mexico of spreading the use of marijuana to feminize black men.
Tell that to Bob Marley.
Yeah, it's not part of their culture, it's a Jewish conspiracy.
What about the soy?
Louis Farrakhan, is it?
Yeah, that's it, yeah. It just gets worse. So Farrakhan gave out a shout out to Mallory, who sat in the audience for his 3-hour rant about Jewish people.
That's fancy Jewish woman.
Well, stupid, sexy Jews, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're poking. Yeah. So, yeah. Again, I'm just going to stop this one because it's kind of pissing me off. And because there's an ambulance coming by.
You think it's an ambulance?
You're fucking in prison.
You mean Starling? Harriet Harman wants the next leadership contest to be women only.
Diane Abbott, she's got diversity, Diane Abbott, so she'll win.
Well, yeah, Diane Abbott's going to win that.
More diverse.
What about a trans woman?
Well, that's actually
It's open up for debate.
believe it or not, yeah, that is actually part of the debate they're going to have about that. So, you know, basically, lads, we can just claim to be chicks for a day. But the thing is, the problem that I have with this is not just that it's discriminatory against men, but women, you should have a problem with this too, because she's literally saying you can't compete. That's what she's saying. When they need an all-woman only shortlist, they're saying you are not good enough.
I'm offended by that.
Exactly. And when
Grossly.
I mean, Labour's, it's not like they don't have a history of this.
How many categories of women you think will compete?
Well, that's a good question. I have no idea. But the thing is, they do this constantly. They're literally, it's this kind of condescending sort of. Honestly, you could call it patriarchal nature of it, where they're sitting there saying, right, okay, white men, they can pay full price.
Yeah, of course.
Brown people, they're poor.
Yeah.
They're not capable.
That's
they
why
can't
I'm
do
selling
these
my
things.
t-shirt, man.
Exactly.
Free shirt.
But this is it's fucking assumption, and it's all coming from a position of superiority on their part, because the people who organise this are obviously white people. It's like. So literally, I mean, her comment is literally, the men can jostle amongst themselves to be the deputy. So, oh yeah, you're not man-haters. But you're not man-haters. Got it. Right, okay.
Do you think it could possibly be because she's the only somewhat competent woman in the
Harriet Harman? That's a somewhat generous assessment.
Didn't she make a Jew joke?
Compared to most of the women in Labour Party.
What do you mean by competent?
She advocated for paedophiles, for fuck's sake.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, but like a young man said, look at her competition.
Right.
But
Kathy Newman for PM.
so
What you saying?
lobster lives matter. That's all I'm saying.
Station discrimination.
I like eating lobster.
Yeah, so I'm saying. Yeah.
It's got to be Diane Abbott. Come on.
Diane Abbott's got
But literally, I mean, her statement is, I think we have to be quite clear about this and basically say that there are lots of fantastic men in the Labour Party who'd be more than capable of being leader. There's no doubt about that.
I think the men should be measured by the length of their cock.
Well, any length is too much length, apparently. Well, yeah, but it doesn't matter. If you've got a cock, you're out of the running, even though, like she says, there are lots of fantastic and capable men. Not that there are, but not in the Labour Party anyway. But this is the point, is it doesn't matter. It's about categories. It's about making sure you play by their rule book and them having dominance over you. That's all this is about. And you're going to be, if you're a Labour voter, which I'm sure very few of you guys are, ex-Labour voters maybe, but it's all about making sure that you are like whipped into action. You're whipped into the into line. It's just what they want to do. But this has a negative consequence, because in the law, gender is a protected characteristic. And I don't even mind that, actually. That's fine. Because as Newsweek report here, a man has won $390,000, a man from Australia, because he was discriminated against in favour of a female colleague who was
a backpacker.
Basically, he was way more qualified than her, but she got the promotion anyway. And a court in Austria, not Australia. Apologise. Hey, look, honestly,
Risky business.
it's going to be both at one point. But
one's Joseph Fritzl, the other's Marmite.
But yeah, no, that's exactly what happened. The case, obviously, this case has been going on for 7 years, so it's nice to see that the guy won it. But it was the Austrian Minister of Transport, Innovation and Technology, led by a social democrat politician who's currently the second president of the country's parliament. Now, I read that because this is important. This is literally social justice nonsense at the very top of countries. This is the power and influence they have. I mean, who are you guys? You're not in parliaments, are you? You know, you're not in parliaments. You're just regular people who have seen all of this happening and have had the effect on your lives directly. The people in the top all agree with this, and now they're using this for their own benefit. They're using this specifically to discriminate against each one of you. There's nothing you can do.
Meritocracy.
Oh, fuck, we've got meritocracy. That's gone. That is gone. In fact, the reason that this guy's suing is because that's gone. Literally, the, let me find the thing. So yeah, 3 candidates came forward and they were all judged to be highly qualified for the role, but this other woman got it. Even though this guy was rated 25% higher than her, she was still selected for diversity reasons, presumably. And finally, we have a wonderful piece from the Huffington Post. I saved this to last because I knew I'd get a groan like that.
I work for there.
Really?
I drank soy on a live stream and got employed.
This is not the American one, it's the UK one, which incidentally has offices in London. I can honestly hardly believe the title. It's a direct call for censorship. Get these far-right extremists off their online platforms.
Fake news.
Resisting hate.
Naturally, it's a picture of Tommy Robinson that they have.
Tommy.
The only way to tackle the stem of the flow of extremism and abuse on social media is to tackle it at the source. Now,
Press the block button.
Yeah, exactly. But but that's not the problem. Their problem is that they're being heard. That's the problem. Like Tommy put up a video the other day, 1 million views. They can't have that. They can't have millions of people hearing a dissenting opinion, which is why they literally are just calling for them to be censored. That's it. That's their end goal. They just don't want you to speak. And that's because you are doing damage to their control over the narrative. And it's this narrative that has to be broken. This is what everyone sharing stuff, posting stuff on social media, you might end up in jail, but it's doing good. Exactly. In every social movement, there will be people who get in trouble with the ruling authorities. You are challenging their power directly. There is no choice. It's going to happen. I'm probably going to end up arrested one day. Let's be fair, you probably are.
Let's start a Kickstarter now.
We've got a campaign on the 1st of April, Nazi pug memes on social media. 1st of April, because we've got extra protection. Would you support that?
Of course I'll support that.
I made the page liberalism.
The idea is to say,
nice to meet you.
And I'm the one that stitched 200 guest lists on over 3 days. That was me, but I couldn't make it.
I'll definitely.
Sargon, when you get arrested, which prison will you go to, male or female?
He can change. He can change his mind anytime he likes. It doesn't matter.
I think my wife would probably prefer if I went to a male one.
If you identify as a female, you'll get a letter sentence.
Yeah, but I'll get it in the neck from my wife for the next 20 years, mate.
You want to be a martyr?
It's not worth the hassle. So, but yeah, I mean, like...
The Guardian were calling for silencing voices as well.
Of course they were. Of course the fucking Guardian was calling for that. Jesus.
No, the Independent actually had one that supported, free speech.
No, they had an article against...
Oh, is it multiple?
One
email for
Make up their mind.
Sit on the fence.
That's very balanced.
Balance. Independent.
Anyway.
We really hate these people, but we should let them spew their hate.
We've got a history of being a free speech platform, therefore we can't just abandon that. But, I mean...
But we don't like them.
It's hardly proportionate. But,
Let's talk about free sex.
It normally is, isn't it? Admittedly, I have to pay for dates, not anymore, but like...
Get a blowjob in return.
they start by saying, it has now been publicly acknowledged at the highest level of British policing that as a country we have a serious problem with far-right radicalisation and the threat of far-right terrorism. Okay, yeah, exactly. Right? But this is the thing. Why? Fucking why would the regular person want to become a far-right extremist? There must be something compelling them to do what they're doing.
Autism.
No, it's mate. Honestly, I wish this was an epidemic of autism. Then I would be laughing at it on the internet. There would be no greater problem. But there is a greater problem. But we know that this is the problem. This is coming from the grassroots because people on the ground in working class communities have a real problem, and they're being specifically told to shut up about their problem and deal with it. It can't go on. It can't go on. You can't just keep stigmatizing these poor fucking working class white communities and telling them, no, shut your mouth, you fucking racist. That can't go on forever. And it's no wonder that people like Britain First had 2 million followers on Facebook. It's no fucking wonder. They're the only people brave enough to stand up and actually say something about it. Whether you agree with them or not, you're going to follow them because you want to hear about this kind of information.
If you don't agree with them, you still want to hear.
Exactly, and literally no one else is doing it, and therefore the progressive left are giving control of free speech, the impetus, the activism to it, to the racists. They couldn't ask for a bigger boon.
That's right.
You know, I mean, like this is actually an incredibly diverse crowd, and I don't imagine there are actually many people who would admit to being a racist or even think of themselves as racist.
I'm racist.
I hate everyone.
But again, power and privilege, though, that's the thing. But this is the point, you know, we're all stigmatized because there is a genuine problem with grooming gangs in this country, and we need to do something about it. And honestly, all we really need to do is make the authorities employ the laws without discrimination. If you see a 30-year-old man dating a 12-year-old girl, I don't care what his fucking race is. And I don't give a shit how much of a racist you are. That's a crime. Honestly. I mean, like, what kind of retard do you have to be to actually need to have to say that?
It's an extremist view.
Far right extremist view. Grossly offensive far right.
Yeah, grossly offensive far right, who want the indiscriminate application of English common law across the entire country. These radical extremists, what lunatics they are.
Radical moderates, don't you mean? He talks to
Radical moderates, that's what we are, mate.
People like facts.
Yeah, exactly.
He talked to Spencer, so they're best friends, obviously.
So, yeah, it's literally, I mean, Tommy Robinson obviously comes up in this 101 times. We're never told what Tommy Robinson has said that's racist, obviously, but why would they? They just say it and say it. I mean, Robinson was one of several hate preachers.
He's religious now.
Yeah, exactly.
Love preachers.
You know, and fuck's sake.
He grew a beard for the event.
Yeah. And the entire article is just a call to have everyone who disagrees with them censored. That's the point. And shamelessly, absolutely shamelessly, a media publication calling for censorship. Can anyone think of anything more counterproductive than that? Because I tell you what, if they're concerned about the rise of right-wing radicalism and it's happening at the grassroots, it's inevitable. Like in Austria, like in Poland, you're going to see right-wing parties rising. Who are they going to come for, Huffington Post? They're not going to go for they're not going to go for Breitbart. They're not going to go for Fox News or the Daily Mail. They're going to come for you, you fucking idiots. If you legitimize legitimize the point and purpose and make it acceptable to censor, then you will eventually be censored. You can't control everything all the time. It's coming back. You're going to get fucked.
It's a boomerang.
Exactly. It's a pendulum. It swings one way, it swings another. We need to keep more towards the centre. But thank you, everyone, for coming out, and thank you for listening.
So right now you see the park, there's a lot of white, but normally it's like 8% Islam, and I'm not the only Sikh, and I've been threatened a lot of times. That's why I wear the camera. So there is like an undercurrent of a blasphemy law coming in within the park, and the only way to counter that is for people to keep it coming back. The Speaker's Corner is like an institution for the UK. If it falls, yeah. So I want people not just to come once in a while. I come here every week, but I've been threatened, and there's people over here that got a life death threats in their life. Yeah, I've been literally people coming by from my house of Richmond Light, and so they're still walking around the park. So I hope with yourself, you come back and we can have a good discussion. And I'm against racism, but Tommy Robinson isn't a racist. racist.
No, this is what I have to explain to people every time. So he's not a racist.
If I was called Tommy Robinson, I would feel offended if he was a racist. Yeah. I've accepted the nickname, so...
He's not a racist.
One of the things, the bar for racism is so low now that I'm a racist.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
And the people that are calling me a racist are ethnically, racially, I believe in race, are the same race as me. We used to live together at one point. Yeah, so genetically, so this is where it's getting a bit silly now, that they're trying to shut down free speech with your racist, your Islamophobe.
But that's the best attack to get you to shut up. And it's like, yeah, but I don't have to shut up, and that doesn't make what I'm saying less true. Let's assume that I was a giant racist. Well, that doesn't disprove what I've just
trying to say, that even though, even for argument's sake, Tom Robinson was a racist, who cares? He should be allowed to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah, and once you have people here that are calling for open jihad against the UK, there's a guy in the park that comes regularly who was on jihadi next door. Yeah, he was an ISIS supporter, and his best friend was the guy that done the London terror attacks. Yeah, his name's Abdul Haq, and that guy here has not been condemned by the Muslims. So the problem with the Muslim community is lots of great Muslims, but they don't condemn their own kind. Yeah, and so they're kind of bystanders. Well, I got threatened to get knocked out, but no one stopped it, and no one said, "Oh, why are you threatening him?" Instead, they asked me, "Oh, what did you do to provoke him?"
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love that. It's like the wild dogs. Like you can't expect them not to attack you. So, no, I do expect them to. And if I don't, I'm not treating them as a fucking adult. You know, I'm treating them like an animal.
The problem with the left, they've got a bigotry of like expectations.
Oh yeah.
They think that they're more racist than the right because they think they're savages who can't think for themselves.
Yeah, they really.
And in a way, they are to a certain degree. Too much inbreeding. You've got to stop.
No, I don't agree. I think they. I think it's just because they are allowed to like indulge this.
You haven't spoken to them. I've spoken to them for like 6 months. There's something wrong in the brain.
There's something wrong with it.
Yeah, there's something wrong in the brain with somebody. I believe it's like inbreeding.
Yeah, but I'm too white, and I'll go.
Hold on, I'm being truthful, yeah.
We need to go. Yeah, I do need to go.
I'm gonna email you, yeah. Someone of your subscribers, and when you come back, let's have a good chat. Anyway, Sargon, take care. Do what you're doing.
I can shake your hand. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you for your help.
Hey, leave him alone. He doesn't like girls.
Neither do I.
And we are the same religion pieces. We will never say our religion. I mean,